Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from our sponsor. The Daily Compliance News for December 22, 2021, the Predicting Corrupt Politicians edition. And we begin with that story from phys.org, a first-time contributor to the Daily Compliance News. And scientists in Brazil have developed a model which can predict convictions of lawmakers for corruption. Wouldn't that be interesting to use somewhere besides Brazil? According to a report issued by the scientists involved, it is possible to predict whether deputies in the lower house of the Congress of Brazil will be convicted of corruption or white-collar crime in the future by analyzing the similarity between their voting records and those of already convicted lawmakers. Of course, we don't have corruption by lawmakers in the United States because insider trading isn't illegal. But this is a very interesting article, and researchers analyzed the voting history of some 2,400 politicians, literally over 30 years, in a total of 3,400 sessions on votes. So interesting paper and the predictive nature of AI coming to the fore with politicians. Next up, from the Securities and Exchange Commission, they have fined Nikola Corporation $125 million to resolve fraud charges. These charges related to imprudent tweets and other social media outreach by the former and now disgraced president of Nikola, Trevor Milton, who said a whole lot of materially false misstatements, both in the run-up to Nikola going public via SPAC, and then after the company became public, and it turned out not to be true. Of course, the most famous is the rolling truck that they claim showed a working model of their electric semi truck, which of course was rolling downhill. So I guess it all does roll downhill. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, NatWest pleads guilty again. Yes, NatWest, the bank, has pled guilty to wire and securities fraud for manipulative trading known as spoofing, which violated an earlier criminal settlement that called for the bank to avoid trouble during the period of the corporate probation, making the guilty plea necessary to avoid a trial. It was not in one subsidiary, but in multiple subsidiaries. And if the Department of Justice made clear, if you don't live up to your obligations, they're going to come down and spank you hard, and NatWest got spanked. And then finally, up from Boston, a Harvard professor, Charles Lieber, was found guilty of lying to FBI agents about his relationship with a foreign government, that foreign government being China. And he got into hot water for that, and now he's been found guilty in federal court in Boston. So Merry Christmas, Professor Lieber. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.